So that's welcome to Sky Notes. Each planet has a day of the week and even certain hours where its energy is strongest. In this episode, we're sharing simple ways to connect to that energy using everyday things like colors, scent, foods, stones, and more. You don't need to be an astrologer, just a little intention goes a long way. So let's go. Hello, good morning.
Good
Welcome
morning.
to Sky Notes and our talking about some remediation today. This is literally one of my very favorite things to talk about.
Mhm.
I will burn your ear off talking
I love
about
it.
remediation. Woo, yay. How are you,
Yeah.
Lillian?
Oh, I'm doing great. It's a beautiful day down here in the South, as I like to call it. It's like a perfect Seattle summer day here in October. And uh, yeah, I've already gone out and fed the fish and seen the migrating birds, so I'm good. How about you?
Beautiful. Beautiful. It's Friday morning and we're doing
Yeah.
live. So I'm always a little bit stressed when we get started and then ease into it and get to
Yeah,
see your happy face and get to talk about
likewise.
astrology. I mean, come on. We get to talk about
I
astrology.
know. I know. It's perfect. It's
Life is
perfect on
good.
a Venus day, foreshadowing.
Absolutely. I lit a candle for her today and everything.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So what is remediation? Now this is interesting because you are not going to get the same answer from every astrologer
Right.
because in the past 20 years, the ancient practices have become far more popular and known, and there's more translations and all this amazing stuff. So astrological magic has really grown.
Yes.
So a lot of astrologers, and that stuff is like powerful and
Mhm.
involved and something that if you've got Virgo placements could drive you nuts because
Yeah, I
trying to
can't do
create
it.
something
I can't
perfect,
do it. Mm-mm.
right? I think I'd bring in too much anxiety into the whole story for it to be helpful. Trying to get it perfect with my Virgo sun. But, remediation is actually fairly simple. Like it's just the act of trying to fix something or help
Right.
something.
So, for
It's
example, if you remediation occurs in every place in life, right? If you get a flat tire, you fix the flat tire and you don't have a flat tire anymore. That's remediating a tire. But in astrology, it takes on a million different shapes. And we started talking about this because I shared with Tracy that I was going through my calendar and marking down each planetary ruler for each day and how that really changed how I saw things. And then, of course, I noticed all the other astrologers with like beautiful scarves attuned to the day or the right color for the day. And it's one level that really intrigued me. But then, Tracy shared that she's got the data and a video, and so take it away. I mean, I think this is really cool stuff.
Yeah, I'll include this. I've got a handout, the when, why, and how to remediate. So it's,
Mm,
you don't need to be an astrologer to do any of these things. And when I start teaching the basics of astrology, I love talking about astrology that we see all over because
yeah.
people don't realize how ingrained into our daily practices and everything that this stuff is, right?
Mhm.
And so like each of the traditional planets get a day of the week.
Mhm.
So, that's the timing piece if you're trying to I need to back up a little bit.
Oh,
I'm gonna back up because I wanna talk
mhm.
about when we talk about what remediation is.
Yes.
Um, so you can do very simple acts to connect to each of the planets that involve things that either you're going to want to increase the energy of that planet or you're going to want to decrease the energy of that planet or
Mhm.
you're just wanting to connect to the energy of that planet, right?
Mhm. Yep.
And so these things, like looking at the timing and understanding when those planets are most active, is going to give you the most bang for your buck if you're trying to connect or remediate them. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's when we get to the days of the week. So each
Yes.
planet rules a day of the week. And so if you're trying to connect to the sun, you're best to do that on Sunday.
There
If
you
you're
go.
Want to
Easy
connect to
peasy.
the moon, you're going to want to do that on Monday. Mars is Tuesday, Mercury's Wednesday. And if you say them in French, some of them, mercredi in French,
Right.
Mercury.
Yes.
Same with Thursday is jeudi in French, Jupiter.
Hmm.
Vendredi is Friday, Venus, right?
Venus.
And
Yes.
then Saturday is Saturn's Day. That one you don't
Yes.
need to translate because it's pretty straightforward.
Pretty
Um,
clear.
and then based on this is when it gets kind of complicated, and I have an app for this. The time of rising is
Hmm.
also be that first hour will be given to the
Exactly.
planet's day, and then each hour subsequent to that will then be given to one of the other planets.
Hmm.
So you can really like amp this up. You can go a step further, and it's the moon. The moon rules the night, so you could find out what the moon hour in the evening is, and so you can layer this and make it more and more. This
Exactly.
can be crazy making, so this is why I'm like I try to
Well, and
go.
I brought up the calendar, where I just write down, I have like a form, right, for my daily practice. And part of it is writing stuff out because I find that soothing. And I write out Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then underneath, I just write down Sun, Moon, Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, Saturn. And each time it's like that practice just reorganizes my brain. And when I look at it per day, I'm struck by that ease of association with that planet. So even though you're describing what totally could happen, there's also just that really easy layer that folks could stay in conceivably for their entire lives.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
for sure. And I started focusing more on this because just based on some things in my chart, like I have Saturn retrograde and I have some quincunxes. And so being in sync and moving smoothly through time has been something I've had to
Hmm.
learn. And so
Hmm.
connecting to the planets every day has been actually really helpful for that.
Hmm.
It's kind of smoothed things out. Synchronicity, there's more synchronicity when you're in sync, things like
Yes.
that. And
Yes.
it's not I do not do anything all that complicated. So there are colors associated with the planets. There are numbers associated with the planets. There are smells, essential oils associated, foods. There's so
Yes.
many ways that you can do this, right?
Right.
And the more personal it is to you, the
Hmm.
more personal the energy coming back to you is going to be, right?
Yes.
There needs to be the rules of anything. It's interesting because this is cross-cultural. I learned this actually from a feng shui
Mm,
master,
sure.
that anything that you're doing, because that's all, and everything you do with feng shui, that's remediation, trying
It
to
is. Yeah.
remediate the energy in your house, right?
Hmm.
There needs to be some effort and some purposeful intention behind what you
Hmm.
do, but it shouldn't cause you so much stress that you're now putting a bunch of negative energy on it. So
Right.
sort of finding that balance where it's like it's purposeful and you're doing it for the reason that you understand, whatever that might be. But not to the point where it's like you have to turn your life upside down to make sure that, Monday night during the moon's hour, you're drinking milk. I'm just picking
Right.
something out of my butt, but
No,
you
but
know what I
but
mean? Like you're like missing something that's like life important just to do that one little thing. That's not going to give you the kind of benefit or the happiness or the whatever it is that you're trying to do. So, um, what I started doing was the colors of the planets. Now, here's the
yes.
problem: we don't all look good in all the colors. This
Right.
pasty white see-through skin does not like the warmer colors at all.
Right. Right.
So that's gonna cause me stress if I'm wearing a color that
Mhm.
I feel like I look jaundiced in or something, so that you don't wanna do that. So I just made sure I had underwear that looked, was a color of the planets or had
That is
symbolism
so
from the
clever.
planet, like, so, like, anything that has a flower on it goes to Venus, right? The color for the moon is white, but I actually have some really cute, sorry, this is probably too much information, but some underwear that's black with white polka dots, and it actually looks like a full moon, right? So I'm like, so
I love it.
it's fun because you can get creative and it's like the
Yeah.
tricky part is that we can get really lost in the perfection of it, like having to have the exact right
Mhm.
thing. But the reality
Right.
is the only things that it needs is to be some affiliation to that planet for you and
Yes.
for it, right? Um, but that also has really personal resonance for you. And
Yeah.
that's when you're going to get the best juice. So tell me what you do daily to connect. Um,
Right, because it is really different. I mean, I think, if I were just describe the way I learn the most, or most familiar way, it's kinesthetically, right? The feeling of it. And so the first thing I feel, and I think it happened, well, I guess it happened years ago, right? When I realized that Saturday, which, I don't know about you, but for folks in the States, it's like a big fun party time, when you schedule your parties or, that kind of thing. But it is also when parents are moving at top speed, ushering kids from one event to another, and the house cleaning gets done and that sort of thing. So Saturday and Saturn were the first ones that really caught me off guard. And in acclimating to that, if that makes sense, in saying, yeah, Saturn can be part of a really fun day, and it's our first day off in a before time week where people weren't working gigs. And so it's a time for us to gather together and restore community. That's really quite lovely. And then the fact that it's bracketed by Venus and the sun really caught me off guard. And I know that we're kind of working towards talking about that, the shock and awe of the change of the signs. But that really was, the first thing I went to was collapse. I'll collapse into the Sunday. I'll collapse into the Friday. But as I've gone along, it's just totally different. I'm aware that Venus, for example, is carrying my desire. And that if I don't feel that desire, I want to get under it and kind of encourage it to support it. And that's the Venus that I'm going to be working with. What is my desire? And so obviously you and I get to hang out on this day, and that's pretty joyous. I mean, I have to go put on makeup and curl my hair, which are two of my favorite things. Hate to
and
tell
so
you.
Venusian.
So Venusian, so Venusian. So yeah, and then the Sunday being, we have a joke in our house about it being Sunday scaries, because Monday's coming up and you're going to have to kind of hit the ground running into a work week. And so knowing that it's Sunday, we just enjoy each other for the whole day and let ourselves enjoy each other. And honestly, we've turned chores into like, this is the only time we get to hang out. Put on some music. This is going to be amazing. So it turns into this day where we specifically nourish each other. So that's the beginning, right? But when you were talking about the essential oils and we didn't mention candles, but yeah, scents, incense, light, all of these things.
Oh, I think we lost you. Uh-oh.
I feel the resonance like with the planet. Am I here?
I think you're back. Yeah, I think you're back. You are. You're not in sync, but
Okay.
you're back. Yeah.
Shoot. All right. I'm going to try one thing, and I'm sorry, but I
Oh, but
suspect
you're
I'm
caught
not
up
on the
now.
right. Okay, good.
You're
I'll
caught
just
up
leave
now.
it.
Yeah,
Okay,
you're all
perfect,
good.
perfect. So what I was going to say is it's an interior experience where I connect interiorly with the energies of those planets when you're talking about them. And it struck me because it is that connection. When I see that sign, I immediately sort of resonate with that glyph, and I'm kind of pulled into an intellectual run through of what I know about it. And then I would say I put that on pause and do a lot of observing, because that is what is netted the most for me, is just taking the time to watch what happens.
Right. Right. I remember one of the first times I gave an astrology talk to a bunch of non-astrologers, we were talking about moon phases. And I was
Mm-hmm.
doing this whole astrology and everyday
Yes.
piece. And it made me think of it when you were talking about Saturday and how I said, to them, I said, we plan all this fun, awesome things for Saturday, but what do we do all day? We work our
Work.
asses off, right?
Yes.
And then maybe we get to have fun if we still have energy, right? But it's like, and even when you do plan things, an event, say Saturday afternoon, it's interesting because I don't know how many barbecues or picnics I've been to, and people are like, oh, but I can only be here for an hour because I have 10 other things that I have to
Yes.
do. Like it plan your parties for Fridays or Sundays, guys. They're way more fun.
Sunday early.
Yeah. But it's interesting, right? Because I remember somebody talking about the sun and how many Christian religions celebrate God on that day. And the
That's
sun
right.
is about us, and so
Yeah.
it's interesting just to even play with that in your mind, that
Yeah.
connection to the sun and Apollo. And if you are somebody who goes out and talks to God, or goes
Yeah.
to your community place to talk to God, um it's an interesting way to there's that spiritual spark with the sun that we forget about, that because we're always talking about self, right? Where not
Sure.
often is it moving into the soul piece of that self
Right.
thing. And so if somebody does go out and celebrate in that way, or communicate in that way, to connect into that piece of yourself represented by the sun as you do it, so
I think
that's
that's
where, when we talk
marvelous.
about intention, right? It's like it's the piece, because I'm obsessed with how people just instinctively remediate their own charts
Yeah,
without realizing they're doing that.
absolutely. Yeah.
Exercise is the Mars remediation, um, so on and so forth. But the things that we can do, that we already do, and understand with intention why we do them, can just the power in that is just so
Yeah.
huge, right?
Can we pause for a minute and talk about Sunday a little bit more? Because I
Mhm.
love that notion. In evolutionary astrology, there's often, I'm not going to say a showdown, but there's often a joining together of God's will and human will, metaphorically speaking, right? And so there's an expression of the soul, and there's the expression of our personal will. And then, like you're saying, the sun is us, right? And so, one of the things that I think is really quite lovely is when we align with that. And the suggestion that the Sabbath is on the Sunday is so beautiful, because it is about almost surrendering yourself to spirit and finding those places where the sun is in full effect versus the Saturn. The folks who have the Sabbath on the Saturday, it makes all kinds of sense. And that you would have a lot of rules makes all kinds of sense. But that kind of warmth and the place where we are our ego, but still able to be in community, is gorgeous. That's a gorgeous thing. So it's a lovely thing to see that folks would be willing to let their self-interest be subsumed by devotion on a Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and the other thing that I think is really important about these getting connected to the days of the week and understanding sort of the cycles and all of that. To me, if you're somebody who's interested, maybe not in becoming an astrologer or anything, but is interested
Right.
in learning astrology, creating some kind of a routine around remediation kind of keeps you reminding yourself about all of the themes
Yeah.
astrologically. So it's a great learning tool to
Yes.
start to actually, because it facilitates so many things. You get in sync with the cycles, you start paying attention more to transits and understanding those cycles a little bit more. It's introducing you to the language all the time. So
Your
you're
personal language. You're matching
exact
your glossary with the astro glossary and coming up with what's meaningful for you.
Exactly. And then, because a block for people often is that they study astrology intellectually And
Right.
to bring it into life and to see people, there's that huge wall that people hit,
Right.
where it's like, whether it's fear or, not feeling like they know how to take that information and use it in a way that's helpful. So this,
Hmm.
to me, if this becomes part of your regular thing, even before you're actually learning astrology, taking what you learn and putting it into practice is just that much more straightforward, and it helps you think about it on a regular basis. And like you said, you're right away, you're creating your own connection to the language and to be able
Yeah.
to learn it and stuff. So this is a great gateway, sorry, a bit
Yeah.
of a gateway drug really into astrology.
The thin end of the wedge. So how would we use, like, let's talk about if somebody came and said, okay, you guys are enjoying the philosophy of these remediations. I have a court case coming up, a surgery. I'm trying to sell my house. How would I use these remediations to assist me? Or, the more classic one, I'm, in a jam. How do I look to these to help me kind of, the way I'd put it as an astrologer, realign so I get the most out of what's happening to me?
Oh man, that I have 17 answers for that. The first
Hmm.
thing that came to mind though was, like, I find when I'm conscious of this every day and doing the things, like I use essential oil sometimes for planets. There's little things that I'm doing to connect every day.
Yeah.
What happens is that those answers to what you're saying come through the intuition a lot clearer.
Right.
When you're,
After the fact, or with regular use, is
I
that sort of
guess,
the?
like, it's sort of like this, it's you're in a practice of having a regular conversation with, I'm going to say, the universe, for lack of a better
Yeah.
word,
Yeah.
in their language.
Yes.
And so the next step is then to be paying attention, because you're gonna get spoken back to, whether
That's
it's
right.
in images or ideas or people who contact you. Or so, I mean, there is a little bit of work in this, in learning, okay, so now I'm in this cycle, I'm in sync, I'm doing these things,
Yes.
but now you also have to pay attention, because the benefits actually will just be there. Nobody's
Yes.
coming, am I making sense?
Well, I'll give you an example
Okay.
from yesterday. So, my husband is trying to do regular bike rides, and he has just adopted a practice of recovery bike rides, then long bike rides, then recovery bike rides. He wants to kick it off with a bike ride in the morning, but he doesn't want to do a bike ride in the morning. For me, I don't want to get ready in the morning. So we traded yesterday, and I said, I'll get ready if you go for your bike ride. And it actually worked. But what happened the next day was really the thing that I wanted to share. So it's been really rainy. We almost had a big hurricane rainstorm. It's been gloomy and not really bike riding weather. So he's been really frustrated, but he also works all day, on the weekdays. So anyway, he was trying to figure out if he needed to go for a bike ride or not go for a bike ride. And it was Thursday, so Jupiter Day. And he decided that in order to be consistent, he would go ahead and do like a 5-minute bike ride and come back. And then he left later in the day, because I have a piano lesson, and I'm usually where I'm learning piano. And usually I'm like, could everybody please leave? Because this is not for everyone. And so what had happened was he gave himself a second bike ride and then joined a regular Thursday bike around the city group, and did an extra 10 miles. So he came home and had done 36 miles, which is a huge accomplishment. And he felt like he cracked it open by being consistent on that Thursday. So he kept describing it as synchronous. He kept saying, I went into the day not thinking I was going to get anything but that 5-mile ride. And then all of the sudden, I had to go somewhere. And all of the sudden, these people were going to take another ride. And all of the sudden, the way that I got to it was so much easier. So I'm not trying to say there was a magic hand in there, but to that point of synchrony, there's something about recognizing that helps just in a really foundational way, recognizing that consistency is important. And I know I was trying to relate it to what we were talking about, but he's following his own signs. You know what I mean? He's not an astrologer. He's not watching those weekly things. But it was really beautiful to see that one little taste of Jupiter turned into a whole blossom that just kept him going,
Which is such a Jupiter
allowed,
thing, that it grew
right?
from such a small, right? Like, that's such a Jupiter manifestation of the energy. I love it. It's
Yeah.
really beautiful. Thanks for sharing
Yeah.
that. That's really cool.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's hard to kind of grasp the stuff and you don't want to hold on to it too firmly. It's very much like we are here to observe. I laughed my butt off because you know how I call people meat suits and we're super difficult to navigate kind of thing. That's part of what astrology is trying to do. How do you live in a hormonal reacting body? Here's one way. Um, well, I was talking to him last night and I said, oh my gosh, this whole time we're just beset by loose meat suits. And I could not stop laughing for the rest of the night, thinking of his loose meat sandwiches, loose meat suits. Any hoozle. So that's one level of remediation, right? It's like you can park it in your daytime. When I think about remediation more broadly, I think about Jyotish. I have a really gorgeous green topaz
Mm,
that I wear on my correct finger to help with Jupiter, right? And
right.
and to help with Mercury and to help with, and then I think of all the remediations that come out of Vedic or Jyotish or Indian astrology. I don't think it's called that, but that's the region where it's much more delineated because it's so culturally relevant. Folks always do their astrology.
And it's so karmic, right? Like, the feeling of that particular type of astrology is you're given this fate, you don't have any choice, but you can do things
Right.
to try to appease the god. It's coming sort of from that place.
Which
Um,
is so different, right? You have a
mhm,
narrative that precedes your narrative, and you are obligated to continue that along.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
really extraordinary because we
yeah,
are very much about the psychological impact and maybe clearing out
yeah,
things,
yeah,
that are irritating.
right.
But are
Yeah.
there other sort of remediations? So we talked a little bit about magic, which is entirely out of scope for me.
Definitely. I mean, okay, so this is my list of very simple things that
Perfect.
okay, so each of the planets have colors. So it could be as
Yes.
simple as just wearing the color, right?
Yeah.
Or like, I purposefully have left my office red
Uh-huh.
because of the part of my bit, like, it's Mars connected anyways.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you can, if there's a specific place in your house that you're always doing the same thing and you know which planet that rules in your chart, you can get that involved. Each of the planets has a number. And so
Okay.
for a while I was using the sounds, and ringing the chime, the number associated with the planet, and
Wow.
then doing the meditation associated with it. So
Nice.
you can make it more of like a spiritual practice and get as involved or not involved as you want. There are
Yeah.
stones associated with all of the planets, and
Yes.
and also like smells and essential oils and stuff. But there's no blanket. Some things are very solidly in one realm, like black stones are going to be Saturnian.
Mhm.
Like, they're always going to be associated with Saturn in some way. But there are some stones that can be mercurial or they can be Venusian. So being
Right.
clear, if you're going to go with stones, you need to program your stones and tell your stone what it is from it's doing, right?
Wow. Yeah.
Because a lot of green stones get put under both Mercury and Venus. So it's,
Yep.
being clear on what it is you want from the planet and the stone
Yeah.
is important. Like we mentioned, there's days of the week, there's hours. Each of the fingers, each of the mounds of the hand are all associated to a planet. All of the organs are associated to a planet, right? So, say you're trying to do something for Venus, the
Yeah.
chakras are associated with the planet, right?
Mhm.
So, the heart chakra is Venus. You're trying to remediate Venus, a Venus stone on a piece of jewelry, right?
Oof, lovely.
Each planet has a metal. So,
Yeah.
if you're wanting jewelry or a stone that's associated with the sun, well, it's also you want it to be in gold.
Yeah.
Things like that. So there's
Yeah.
warmth is going to be associated with the sun and the planets that
Yes.
like the sun, Jupiter,
Yes.
Saturn. And then the silver is going to be associated more with the moon, right?
Right.
So on and so forth. This is what I'm saying, where you can go down a Virgo rabbit hole of like details and building these things with as many
Yes,
things
but
as
it's the
possible.
perfect era for that, because if we tell people, go to your favorite AI or go to your favorite search engine and plug in remediation and plan it, you're going to be beset with all kinds of options.
Yeah.
And then beginning it starts the process of it becoming yours and
Hmm.
not someone else's. And so it's okay. You can enter from any door. You just want to be able to remember that you're going to claim this, you're going to engage with it, and so it's going to be yours.
Right. Sound. There are
Mm-hmm.
sounds. So I drop in and out of this practice because I'm so bad at building habits because
Mm-hmm.
ADHD. And I would sit and I would listen to the tone of that planet
Mm-hmm.
that day. And in acutonics, there you always pair. It's about intervals and creating,
Okay.
intervals of sound.
Mm-hmm.
So I can either try to make, so Venus energy is passive, and so maybe I need to not be passive with my Venus energy. So I might listen to Venus and Mars together. Maybe I need to add
Mm.
Om to create right relationship with Venus, so she's not just wanting to lay on the couch. There are ways with sound to be able to work with the planets, and those tones you
Mm-hmm.
can find, the planetary tones you can find online because they're readily known and available what the frequencies are.
That's
And then
awesome. I didn't know that.
yeah, yeah, and then the planetary charity is the big one. Is the
Our
It takes
favorite.
a little bit more time and a little bit more homework. And if you haven't watched our video on planetary charity,
It's
what it
worth it.
is that you pick a cause or a charity or a thing that would be you would associate with the planet. So moon, mothers, things like
Yep.
that. It's that simple. And you donate something to that
Yeah.
thing. So it can be your
Mm-hmm.
time, it can be money, it can be
Yep.
items, it can be whatever. But again, intention is really important. So
Yes.
gathering all the stuff you think is garbage to give to somebody because it makes your life better, that's not charity, that's cleaning.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
cleaning out your stuff and coming across this is I just went through this, and so I had to mourn some pieces that were not ever gonna look
Yes.
great on me or never quite gonna fit, but I've been holding on to them forever because they cost
Right.
money and yeah. So I donated a bunch of those pieces this time and, like, mourned that I'm never gonna wear them or look good in them, but somebody else can love them. So
Yes.
there does need to be a little bit of effort.
I have a ridiculous Jupiter. I'll tell you an example. So I recently had I'm not going to say it's a planetary charity. It didn't show up like that, but I love donating to moms, right? Like if you were to ask me, I think that moms are the most underrated, and that's all of us. Any mom who has lost, I was thinking last night because I'm a grizzly bitch, all of my children are dead. Be careful when you talk to moms. You know what I'm saying? You may be missing a bunch of us, and it's a big deal. And there's nothing like helping out a woman. You feel like you're helping out like 20,000 people. You know what I mean? Even a woman who is just straight up trouble, by virtue of being a woman, there's a potential for her to be an amazing person, right? And you want to encourage that. So anyway, the planetary charity, what I, recall, because you introduced this idea to me, little bit of pain, little bit of pain. And
A
so
little bit of
I,
sacrifice.
yeah, I donated accidentally too much. And then I sat with it, and I sat with it, and I sat with it, and I sat with it. And I went, now's the time to donate a little too much. And then I was like, made sure to go find the person, right? Because it was one of those situations where they could think that there's some, I don't know how to say it, like they got something over, or more importantly, it was unequal or unintended, and so the relationship could start to fray.
Yeah.
And so I kept finding her and going, no, that was on purpose. I know that it didn't look like it, but here's what I'm going to tell you. You take that. You're worth it. A lot of people are crapping on this. I want you to be your juicy self. So that's one example. And then another example, we're talking about clothes, and I'm thinking of this with the backdrop of this massive ADHD decluttering that I'm doing, where, I found like a tiger eye slab, a blue and gold tiger eye slab that I didn't know I had. And I was like, this is what keeps happening. There was a period where I was able to indulge myself, and I did it too much. And so now I'm trying to weigh what we're talking about, but it feels like one of those, the games where you toss in a coin and it pushes the money up a little and eventually it all falls off the cliff kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
thing. Okay, that's what I'm doing with all of my possessions, because all of a sudden I don't need all of them. And all of a sudden I need to figure out the next space for all of them. And because we've been talking about planetary charity, it reminded me of what I did when I lost a lot of weight, and I had all these glorious clothes from this corporate job that I had that were still like peak condition. And there was this beautiful woman who came over to my house, and I had set up my house like a boutique and let her get dressed in my bedroom. And she went through and looked at everything. And then at the end, she, picked out as much as she wanted. And I was like, I'm passing it along, because especially for fat women, there's this whole idea of like, we can't be stunning and beautiful and fun to be around and all of this. And so I feel like, as a fellow fat woman, even if I lose all of that identity, I would say, I want every woman to feel cherished. And it felt like there was like a Cinderella vibe to it. You know what I mean? And I have found over the decades that I don't have to be that over the top, but it is an effort to stop me from it. And it offers me like this clarity with Jupiter. I know in retrospect, a lot of the time when I went over the top, it didn't make any difference for the people. There are people I've helped for years, and it didn't actually help. And that was educational for me, because I want to be where the help makes the most difference. But those were some things I wanted to kind of share. It's really important to not diminish the value of your stuff. And so, I am going to fill my car with, I'm looking over here, I've got like an extra ironing board, extra table legs, all of these things. We're going to fill it. We're going to fill our truck with that, or our Subaru. And we're going to go to thrift stores, and we're going to go to sell the stuff that's way more valuable, but we're going to throw everything else away. And part of why that's okay with me is because there's a whole section at our dump down here where people come and get the stuff that's valuable,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then
Yeah.
they can do the next thing. But figuring out that next step feels like a lot of what remediation is here to help us with, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Again, way too many thoughts to distill it down to just one thing. I did want to say though, because you had brought up um, the bike riding and your guy.
Yes.
So I really like that story. To me is like, oh, Mars is out of control. That's the first thing that I think of when it's like, when it becomes a little bit obsessive. You know what I mean? And so, if you were to come to me and say, this is like all we talk about is cycling right now, and it's becoming too much, too much. What can we do? I would say, okay, so that's a Mars thing. So how about we use some coral? because there's, it's one of those.
Oh,
Yeah, well, coral is a um, regulator for Mars, right?
nice.
Like not upper, it'll kind of like bring it into its center. And so, well, that's why I was so happy. This was actually a secret Santa. Isn't that
Oh,
amazing?
bonus. It's
Right?
extraordinary.
So clear, and then told it its job is to
I love
help
that.
my Mars. Um, and so I'm really big on touchstones for people.
I love that.
Anything that's been smoothed is you can carry it with you. It's a touchstone. And the reason why I love it is because, if you're carrying a touchstone every day and then, maybe using a smell, something that is like
Oof,
bringing you
yummy.
back into the day's energy, right?
Yeah.
Every single time you touch that stone, you're reminding yourself what your intention for the day was.
Oh, I love that.
So it's like
Yeah.
you're reminding yourself over and over and over again, this is a Wednesday day, it's Mercury's
Yeah.
day, this is what we wanted to get
Oof.
accomplished, or this is the thing I'm working on.
Now I'm gonna have to find all my stones and pull them
I
off my
know.
giveaway shelf or
I
save shelf.
yeah, I'm a bit addicted
That's
to them.
cool.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
just
this particular guy who's, I'll tell him he's my favorite husband, and he always goes, "He's my only husband." So then I called him my only husband, and then even that sounds weird, you know what I mean? But, he happens to have Mars in Scorpio conjunct his sun.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
it's coming
yeah,
for him.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And so, so when we talk about remediating a chart, like getting a little bit
Yeah,
more
this
specific
is
when
an
we know in
example, yeah,
detail, right? Um,
yeah,
what I like and what's worked best for me is that if I'm trying to calm one thing down,
right?
to bolster something else that needs a little bit more help,
Okay,
right?
yeah,
Can be good. So at one point so if people have not heard of Sphere and Sundry, that moves into the astrological magic side of things, and
fancy
the stuff
people,
that they
yeah,
create is amazing.
yes,
Absolutely amazing. And so I went through a phase of doing some Saturn work because I realized that that was really kind of my fall down. Um, in terms of projects, like getting
sure,
started doing the thing and then like just being consistent enough, Saturn enough. I started doing some Saturn remediation. Um, and so and with their material, Saturn
mhm,
material candle and whatever.
yeah,
And so because I was bolstering Saturn, I also bolstered Venus because in my chart,
beautiful,
she rules Saturn, but
yeah,
also it's a nice calming between Saturn
yeah,
and Venus. Even with the forks, I like to bring some Venus in if I'm doing Saturn work so that it's
yeah,
with love and it's with ease and,
exactly,
you know,
yeah, yeah,
and so just sort of understanding like if you're trying to bolster your sun, well, then you also might want to bolster the moon so that
nice,
you've got a nice balance there, or if
that's
you're trying to
beautiful,
calm the sun, figure out what needs to be elevated. Um, Tara Al,
yeah,
AAL, Tara Al.
yeah,
Um,
awesome. Tara,
yeah,
awesome all,
yeah, she's amazing. Love her to pieces.
mhm,
She did an exercise. She came and spoke to us about it at our local organization, putting a planet. So every year on her birthday, she'd decide which planet she wanted on the ascendant. And she would
mhm,
live the year through the lens of that planet.
yeah,
And so, she had Saturn year, Venus year. She said
yeah,
it was fascinating to her that her Venus year, she gained 10 pounds because
sure,
she didn't um restrict the
yeah,
Venus sugar and the
yes,
luxury and all the beautiful Venus stuff.
yeah,
So that's a longer process, and she has some great stories to tell about that. But you could do that just simply every day, by
yeah,
concentrating on that planet. And it really, in terms of self-discovery, figure out what house that's in, what house it rules, to bolster that part of your life or calm that part of your life, whatever it is you're needing to do. But there's a
yeah,
certain amount of self-reflection that can just
mhm,
kind of blow your mind, really, as you
Yeah.
start to see things fall into place and things calm down and lift up. But it also helps you develop a relationship with that part of yourself.
Yeah.
Way that
Yeah.
it's really I don't know. There's just it's magic. There's something energetically magical about it.
I agree. I agree. And I do think, we're often, I'm going to speak as a woman. I think guys do this too, but in a different way. We're called to attend to other people's business in a way that kind of overloads our own circuits. And so all of these practices bring us back to ourselves. And what's important about that is we need to know what you need. You know what I mean? And I have found living life that people have no idea, right? Like they often say, you don't know what folks go through. Well, here's something that we can hold on to. You can listen to those folks and encourage them to develop the language to accurately communicate what they want. And then we can make decisions to support that universally. And it's an amazing thing. And so for me, anything that calls me back to discover or to learn is a tremendous benefit. And that is one of the things about remediation, because it's customized to you, that I feel like is so important. And I love what you were saying with Tara All's process. I got a reading from Bernadette Brady, another awesome
Wow.
astrologer, and she talked about the Fidarias. And there's, a 2-planet rulership of, I think I'm in a Mars Mercury phase, and the Mars phase will cover through that round of traditional planets. And that's another way to look at it. And I think that it can be like a year and a half or something like that. I'm speaking loosely of that. But when I see so many duplicates, and it's not just in the astrological world, right? When I was a Catholic, I would go light candles in the church for my beloveds who had passed. I would pray, I would do rosary. And so all of those are techniques for remediation. And for me, it's in thinking of them as calling myself back to myself that is the real juice and the real magic. I'll give another example with the ADHD stuff. So we're doing all of this decluttering. And one of the pieces of advice for people who have ADHD is to get everything off the surface of everything, because it just attracts more stuff. And to consider this area between your chest and your eye level, basically, as a precious commodity, and that you want that vertical area to be incredibly specific to a link that will get you from one place to another. So you create these zones. For example, I've got those hangers that have a chair and a drawer and stuff, and you put your clothes on the night before kind of thing. A valet, it's called. I'm getting one of those because we're setting up zones, and this will be a unique zone to get dressed or to prepare for tomorrow. And you never need to use it, but it's specific to that. And then I'm clearing everything else off. And the point I'm trying to get to is, often as ADHD diagnosed people, other people have rejected, interrupted, overwhelmed our process to such an extent that we never get it. All we know is how it doesn't work for other people. And so this is literally the first chance for us to explore our process with a non-judgmental situation. And our house has been clean for months and months, and now we're finishing our sorting. And then once we're done with that, I'm going to try to do that with my piano teacher and try to, kind of spread the love. Because one of the things I find being a strong Virgo is my capacity to sit and body double with people and support them quietly as a physical presence, unmatched. It's probably matched. Let's be real. I'm pretty impatient, but I'm good at it.
Right. Right.
But that's
Well,
the point.
and
I want to underscore, like, if you are neurodivergent, you may never have been allowed to develop a process that's relevant for you. And so
right.
this is one of many, many ways where you can customize your process so that nobody can call you lazy anymore or say,
Right.
I want you to get it done in 3 days. You can come back and go, not going to happen.
Right. 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 I mean, and there's a lot of simple ways, or not so simple. It really just depends on why you want to engage in any of this, you know. So
Sure.
if there's a certain part of you, right, like
Yeah.
that you're always, so I'm going to use an example. Um, so you're great at coming up with ideas. You can come up with a plan, you can do all the things, but when it comes to actually doing what you need to do to get there, you never know which direction to take. And that's
Right.
what always stops you.
Yeah.
So that's a Mars thing. It's the taking action part, right?
Yes.
That
The doing.
is getting
Yeah.
in your way. So you can
Yeah.
sit with yourself and think about your process from A to B of
Yeah.
achieving things in life and go,
Yeah.
okay, which point do I stumble over? If
Right.
it's like sticking it out and committing to it, that's a Saturn thing, right?
Yeah.
Um if nothing is ever enough,
Yeah.
right? Like, I think about Jeff Bezos and all of his fucking money. Sorry.
Nope. Got it.
That's a Jupiter problem.
Yeah.
You don't know how to, right? The limit,
Yep.
no limits going on there.
Yes.
If you can't get over your own emotional regulation to even move forward, that's a moon thing.
Yeah.
If racing brain and sorting out your mental process, that's going to be a Mercury thing. If you don't know what you want, and that this is so huge and happens with so many people, that's a Venus thing.
Yeah.
So you could sit and think about your process and go, okay, where would I like to improve this process?
Isn't that
Right? And
yummy?
pick a planet, figure
Yeah.
out which day it's on, figure out the things, and just commit one day a week,
Yeah.
right? And then see what that leads to.
Yeah.
Um, or, and this is actually kind of what I did and not on purpose. So I'm just going to share it on purpose. So maybe people don't have to trial and error like I did. Is I did like something every day for all the planets.
Yeah.
If you don't know who's causing trouble in your chart, that's a fast way to find out,
Oh,
because if you bolster a planet that's already doing its thing a lot,
yeah.
you're going to find out pretty fast that, oh, I didn't need to bolster that. That needs
Yeah.
something a little bit calmer, right?
Wow.
And so if you've got the time and the energy to do that kind of self-reflection and just add a thing every day and see who's your troublemaker, that's a super wild experience, and
Wow.
might not be the planet that you think it is that needs the help. As you know, a lot
Yeah.
of people think they need Jupiter and Saturn help because we hear so much about Jupiter and Saturn. But those faster moving planets at the beginning are generally a lot more trouble than we give them credit for, I'm gonna
They
say.
get into a snag. They get into a snag. Like, I would
Mhm.
say, especially Mars traveling around can be quite problematic because it adds so much to the situation. I love that you just delineated how to identify which planet will help your problem. That's fantastic. Is that in that PDF as well?
It's some of it is in here. This is just a very
Mhm.
basic 3-page um, breakdown of when, why, and how to remediate.
That's
Um,
great.
yeah, for sure. But you know,
I
it's
want
interesting. Oh, I was just gonna say that
Yeah.
whole process of like understanding how each of the planets plays into that
Mhm.
was weirdly born out of taking life coach training on manifesting.
That makes
and
sense to me.
and in the way they had the system laid out, I was like, the first thing that you work on is blah. I'm like, oh, that's totally lunar. The next thing you're going to work
Mm.
on is blah. I'm like, oh, that could be mercurial. And so I went through this whole list of all the things that you work through. I'm like, oh, this could absolutely be. And it started making me think about our processes and manifesting our lives in the way that we want them to. And then I started
Absolutely.
to see in myself and others and family, you know, that we all kind of fall at different places in that process. So anyways,
That's
sorry, it was just
fascinating.
really interesting. Yeah.
No, no, it's totally relevant. And then I just wanted to kind of scooch us back a little bit and say, with this, um, Neptune Saturn conjunction perfecting in April of 2026, and the shift of the outer planets towards air and fire, there's a chance to remake ourselves over and over and over again. And so this becomes particularly relevant. There's stuff that I've been thinking about lately. I think I've shared that with Jane Goodall's passing. I'm a woo lady and we're between the veils and cruising towards Samhain. I had this feeling that she wanted to be an ally. And in conversations with friends, we've started to kind of mentally corral all of the youngins. We've got a bunch of babies coming in. And so we were talking about that. And there's a little stress around what we want our beloved young people to grow into and the kind of world we want them to have. And so this Samhain, we're going to do an invitation ritual for resources for them, that if we have to port the future to them and put it somewhere safe where they can get to it, we're going to do that work. And we're also going to memorialize the folks who have passed. I'm sharing that just because there's so much at stake, it feels like. And as we were saying, I think before the show started, Jupiter can make it feel even bigger and like too much. And the vibe I want us to come away with is new and call yourself back to yourself. It's the newness is something that we can work with, and we can make it into something that when we're on our, passing over beds, we can go, you know what? I did it. I did the thing. I'm cool with that.
I love what you said about the Saturn, Neptune, and the outer planets changing, because it feels very, with all the fire in the air, it feels very purifying, right? We're
Yes.
going through a
Yes.
purification process for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And with these eclipses really specifically felt very purifying, very
Don't talk to
interesting.
me about the eclipses. Emotionally, I am exhausted.
There's a lot, like people were really tapped into these eclipses this time, and
Yeah.
it's interesting. But to be able to clear away the pieces of yourself you're finished with, and all we can do in these times of crazy, when things are restructuring themselves out of our control, is to come back to ourselves and do the very best that we can for ourselves and the people that we love, right? And so this is such a simple way to start off your day, sort of feeling, every time we're purposeful, that feels really good. It's interesting. It's a very simple way to feel like you're doing something right. And so if you're walking through your day feeling like, God, I can't get anything right, everything's wrong, I'm fucking up regularly, just start your day putting on a pair of underwear associated with the planet for that day. And I promise you, you're going to feel a little bit better about yourself. It sounds very random and strange, but I'm telling you, it's especially if you're somebody who feels like you don't stick to things, because that's what it does for me, for somebody who's like constantly changing the habit and finding a new way to do stuff. This is one thing that has stuck, and I'm proud of myself every morning when I go, yep, I wore the right underwear today.
It is extraordinary. I honestly, like, I've got the Rex Bill's rulership book, and I hang out with folks who regularly are following this. I am guessing most of the time when I find the association, or I have to dig through my beloved water memory to find, like, oh, this class we talked about it. Here it all is. But even with that, it's so accessible. It's so accessible. Monday, Moon Day. Oh, Moody Moon Day, Monday. Oh, okay.
Right.
It becomes this
That's
thing.
right.
And
That's
then,
right.
calling ourselves back to ourselves, because we need everybody. We need
That's
you.
right.
And I don't know what you need. We're
That's
just
right.
trying to help you with the language
That's
and the
right.
techniques.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it also, people are feeling really isolated right now. And so that feeling of connecting to everything, there's something really helpful in that, in feeling
I
connected
agree.
in a healthy
Yeah,
way to the stuff that's going
yeah,
on.
which helps a
Yeah.
lot when you're already firm in yourself. It helps the people that you're around too. But yeah, I couldn't do it without the connections. I'm so grateful for the people who I love and who love me. And I encourage people, find your community, find your community. I have to tell you, when I went to get my hair done, I got to see all of the clown antics my hairstylist is into. And like, it made me dizzy for days with joy. I mean, that's just a me thing, but just finding like people who are living their purpose, no matter what it is a thrill. This has
That's
been
one of
so good.
I just
Yeah.
want to
Oh,
say
sorry.
one little tiny thing about
Yeah.
like that clown energy and that costuming energy, and like that seems to be rising right now, and that just says a lot about the Neptune in Aries
It's
shift,
going to be a wild Halloween. That's
and
my
the
prediction.
Uranus and Gemini. It's just so playful, and
Yeah.
so that seems to be some of the remedial social energy that we are going to see. Yeah, that's yeah. We do not know. Please be on the lookout for our upcoming schedule. We're working on what
Yes.
the rest of the year looks like, and we've got some great topics. We just haven't figured out which days that we're doing them on.
Yeah.
So we will see you next
But
week.
we'll leave videos for you to watch immediately after this. So there's no waiting.
Yeah, well, you're going to have to wait 2 hours.
Oh, I mean, whenever you see this, you won't have to wait anymore.
There you go. All right. Well, thank you, honey. This was
Thank
awesome.
you.
I'm going to
This was
play our
fun.
going out video, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.